Feedback, thank you. That's what today's video is all about. Guys, today is my 40th video, so I thought about just asking for feedback, but then again, I gave it some thought and I thought it a good idea to just share a skill with you, both to give and receive feedback. And yeah, there is a difference. So I'm going to run through a very brief, quick model that you can use to just give feedback, and then I'm going to give you a couple of tips in terms of how to receive feedback well. There are many models to give feedback, right? And feedback is typically given in terms of performance. So when you get to the half yearly or yearly or quarterly performance reviews, you will typically receive feedback, and we'll get to that in a moment. But how do you give feedback effectively? If you need to give feedback to somebody, think of the following word. The word is just ACT. It's an acronym for a simple little tool. And as I say, there's many of them. This one has worked very well for me over the years. ACT stands for action, consequence, and try this. Right, so the steps are very simple when you have to give feedback to somebody. Just in terms of the actions, talk to the person about what the actions are, what the behaviors are that you are observing. So that's the ACT part. So you want to give feedback about somebody being tardy or coming late, or somebody not delivering the kind of quality work that you expect of them. That's the action part. So describe that, right? And how do you give that? The best way, guys, and there's lots of pros and cons to this, is to kind of almost sandwich it. So talk about something good, then talk about something not so good, then talk about something good again, and so you carry on, right? So that's the kind of way that you should be giving feedback. The second thing you want to point out is the consequences of those behaviors. Remember, although we take it that feedback is about our identity, it really isn't. It's about behaviors. So talk about the consequences or the effect or the impact of those behaviors that you've identified for the person. And then lastly, you can suggest try this or try it differently like this in future, but it's always better to rather go into a little bit of a brainstorming session there and share thoughts with the person that you're giving feedback to come up with some ideas and suggestions as to how could you do this differently in the future. So 3 letters, ACT, ACT, actions, consequences, and try this. That's a way to give feedback. Right, now, let's just for a moment think about how do you then receive feedback. That's a skill in and of itself. The very first thing you need to be able to do is to just sit on your hands and listen, right? Why is it always difficult, guys, for us to receive feedback? I think there's a couple of reasons. If we look at the psychology, we have this tendency to go into a fight-flight mode and to see feedback as a threat, typically. Therefore, there are certain hormones like cortisol and adrenaline and things like that that get generated in my body when I know I've got to go for a feedback session. So it puts me on a high alert, and my whole body is ready to either run away or to fight this issue. So just understand that that's the psychology behind it. That's why it sometimes is difficult to receive feedback. Mental stories we tell ourselves: I'm really bad, or I'm not good enough, or deserving of this job, or I always foul it up, or something like that. Those are the mental stories that we tell ourselves. And then there's a couple more things. The person that actually gives the feedback might not be giving it well, right? So you then receive it poorly as well. Your personal feelings might come into play, and the way they package their feedback could also be challenging for you to receive it well. Okay. I said it in the beginning, but remember that feedback typically is accepted by us or received by us, and in a sense, it speaks to our identity. Please try and distinguish between the fact that feedback is not about your identity. Feedback is about the behaviors that you express. And once you can make that mindset change or that mind shift, your ability to receive feedback in a much more positive fashion is most definitely going to increase or become better. I had a very dear colleague that I did lots of work with over many, many years, and he gave me a really cool tip with it, which I've used ever since. He says, when you receive feedback, you're only allowed to say 2 things. The first thing is, please tell me more. And the second thing is, thank you. I think if you understand the psychology behind this, and you can get your mindset right in terms of receiving feedback and understand that it's about behavior, not about you or your identity, you'll be in a good place. And if you can use those 2 tips, so the only 2 things you're allowed to say is, please tell me more, so that you can understand the feedback and the context of the feedback. And secondly, thank you. Remember that it's your right and your privilege to afterwards go and work through that feedback and then determine what that implies, what it means, and what you're going to do about it. I hope that works, and please, my request to you is please give me feedback, right? Drop me a note. There will be an email in the description, or just respond to this video and just tell me what is good, what is bad. And yeah, I can take it, it's okay. I'll take the negative feedback as well. Just understand that there is a difference between feedback and criticism, but I'd really love to hear from you guys as to whether you find value in this, or what I should be doing differently, what themes or topics I should be touching on. Give me some titles, give me some ideas that you're struggling with, and we'll go forward from there. Thanks, and have a brilliant day.